This episode of Cognitive Dissonance is brought to you by our patrons. You fucking rock. Be advised that this show is not for children, the faint of heart, or the easily offended. The explicit tag is there for a reason.
Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. This is episode 607 of Cognitive Dissonance. And Cecil.
Yeah.
We wrote a book.
I know. We wrote a book, man. We put a lot of work into this. Last year, we started a book in December.
Yep.
Right before, right after the election. So essentially right after the election was when it started. And the book is finished and has been to the editor and now is at the person who's going to format it. And we're going to have a print on demand and a Kindle version soon, and we're also going to have an audiobook version.
We're going to have an audiobook.
And we're going to have it all, hopefully, in the next couple months.
Narrated by none other than David Attenborough, guys.
I can't believe we got it.
Holy shit, what a guess.
Such a grab.
What? How baller would that be?
Yeah, no,
no, that's ridiculous.
Zero,
it's Sam Jackson,
0%. No, it's Sam Harris.
You want to put people to sleep?
No,
it's me.
But Todd's gonna read it. Todd's gonna do all the work on that. So we're super excited. We're gonna have a lot more details as time goes out. But we are gonna let you guys know the title. We're gonna release the title this week. The title is The Grand Unified Theory of Bullshit, and it's a book on critical thinking. We're super excited to get it to you as soon as we start getting more things finished for it, because we still have to finish the cover completely. It still has some text that needs to be added. But once that's done, we're going to probably post that. We're going to, release some things as they come out, but we're very excited about it. We didn't want to wait. We just wanted to tell people about it. We're super excited.
Writing a book there's a lot that goes into it.
Man.
The world has changed, right? So it used to be, and it probably is still for some people, but you write a book, you send it to somebody, they agree to publish it, and then they have teams of experts that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And there's an element now where if you write a book and you go through this sort of self-service route where you got to figure a lot of this shit out, man.
Yeah.
You got unless you got a friend over at the publishers, there's a lot of shit to figure out. I never would have thought about any of it.
And our editor is turned out to be great.
What an awesome editor.
What an awesome editor. Humbled both of us with her ability to turn some of the things that we did into good turns of phrase, which was so much better than what we had given her. I think the product we gave her was a lesser product than what she returned. So we're so excited and we can't wait to get it to you guys. So keep your eyes out open for it. And we're probably going to do some pre-orders and stuff when we finally have it, the thing ready to go. But we just wanted to put it on your radar.
We'll have to figure out what we're going to do for the launch. We should have a launch party, but you can't have a party anymore. You can't have a party. We got to have a launch event. Maybe have a launch stream or something with some friends over or something.
We'll figure it out. something. That's a good idea. It's a good idea. Also, this episode, we are going to have the Puzzle and Thunderstorm guys, the Scathing guys, the GAM guys, the D&D minus guys, the Skeptocrat guys, the Citation Needed guys. Those are all the same guys. That's the same guys. They're all going to be on. Noah, Heath, and Eli will be on later on for I think the last installment of Vulgarity for Charity this year on our show.
Yeah, I think so.
And
one more left.
We had such a great time with them. It was so much fun to record. They're always so funny. And so check it out. It's the last segment of the show.
I only hope that the whores aren't stealing our lemons. Those naughty whores always steal lemons.
We do have a couple lemon whores in this community.
Those damn lemon-stealing whores.
I hate them. Because no one will take our prized lemons from us.
Hey, has it been about 10 seconds since we looked at our lemon tree?
It has been about 10 seconds till we looked at our lemon tree.
Hey, what the fuck?
So Cecil, I want to talk about this story from the Friendly Atheist. This is terrific because we just fucking roasted this chuckle fuck.
And it might be on this. Is it on this show or I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't know either.
I don't remember.
It might have been on the last one. Can't remember.
I think it was on the last one. It was on the last one. Yeah.
Fucking hate this guy. Christian financial guru. And I love that that's in fucking scare quotes.
I know.
Dave Ramsey sued for religious discrimination. Now, what I think is really interesting is the way this lawsuit is framed.
Yeah.
So scroll down a little bit. And I want to read directly from the complaint. According to the complaint, Amos, a video editor, holds strong religious convictions about caring for his family's health and requested to be able to work from home in order to safeguard their well-being. That request, according to the complaint, was seen as a weakness of spirit. Lampo expected its employees to adopt the religious view of Mr. Ramsey that taking COVID-19 precautions demonstrated weakness of spirit and that prayer was the proper way to avoid COVID-19 infection, the complaint states. In contrast, plaintiff's religious beliefs required him to heed the advice of science to protect his family from a deadly disease. And I love the little snark.
I know,
in that,
I
right?
know. It's so good.
It's delicious.
It's so good. Dave Ramsey, Tom and I found him a decade before we started podcasting.
Oh, yeah.
We had found him, I had found him because like some people that I knew had suggested his show.
Yeah.
And so I had listened to his show. And this was before I knew anything about anything. And I was like, well, let me buy his book because he seemed like he had some pretty good advice. People would call in and it was kind of like a Judge Judy, right? It's sort of like a Judge Judy where somebody has done something dumb and now they're being sort of tongue lashed in public for the dumb thing they did.
Right.
And so that's essentially, it's sort of a voyeur sort of show where you see somebody do something stupid. I charged a whole bunch of money on
now
credit
it's
cards.
Sue Zorman.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, but Judge Judy's the same thing. It's like, there's a fight. And so like she's going to tell these people that they're morally bankrupt essentially in front of everybody. And the same thing here. It's like people would be like, I charged a whole bunch of I charged a whole bunch of this and I got student loan debt and I got this and this and this. And he would, he'd always tell people to cut up their credit cards. First thing you got to do is cut up your credit cards. And then you've got to, he's always got the system and the system's the same thing.
Mail you more credit cards.
I know. It's the same system. It's the same system for everybody. And that tells you it's a stupid system. It's a one size fits all. And there's no such thing as one size fits all for finances. That's a stupid thing to think.
But I will tell you, I believed it.
I did too.
I want to call myself
out too. I believed it.
You turned me on to it.
I gave you the book.
Yeah,
I bought the book and read it.
I read it and I was like, yeah, it all makes sense. And I bought into it because I was fucking broke.
Yeah.
I was at a place in my life where you're just like, I don't know if I got enough pizza money. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, and you have debt and you don't really understand how the hell you're ever going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And like the advice makes a kind of intuitive sense. Like it's not good financial advice. The numbers don't work, but it appeals to the intuition.
Sure.
And
there's a truthiness to it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the right way to say it.
That's the way it feels. There's a truthiness to it. It's like all you have to do is cut, and his system is super easy. I'm going to tell you his system. You never have to listen to Dave Ramsey again. This is his system. You take the smallest bill you have and you pay it off. And then you take the money that you were using to pay off the smallest bill you have and you put it to the second smallest bill you have. And then you pay that bill off. And then you keep doing it over and over. And these are credits when you have a credit. It's not just, we're not just
it's kind of like snowball.
Yeah, snowball effect or whatever. And it has nothing to do with semen, guys.
Snowballing, I think is what he called
any of your messages.
Postcoital financial advice.
But in any case, that's his plan. But that neglects the idea that there's different interest rates for your credit.
Yeah. Some debt that you have is more expensive than other debt that you have, and he ignores that entire principle.
Yeah,
and so, but it's bad advice. He became a financial advisor after going bankrupt himself personally, and just was like, I bet I can fleece the religious, and that's like really what he did.
And that's what he's
really what he did
for years.
One of the things that has happened since over the course of the pandemic too is that we are increasingly not really vetting any kind of religious principles or faith or, I don't know, like adherence to any long-term tradition. So you can say you have a religion. It doesn't have to be an established religion. It doesn't have to be an established church.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a religion that you've had for a long time. The barriers are very, very, very low.
Sure.
So that kind of means that you could just cite anything as a religious conviction.
Yeah.
Kind of anything and be like, this is my religious conviction.
Yeah.
So you violated my freedom. And if that doesn't work, it sort of stands to follow then that then there has to be some rules around what gets to have a religious exemption.
Sure.
And I think there's going to be an interesting push-pull. This is a really cool case.
Yeah.
A really cool case.
Yeah, and it almost feels like a little bit like the Satanists. You know, the Satanists do that thing where they say, no, it's my religion to put up a fucking statue of butt fucking here.
Right.
And you've got to let me put up my butt fucking statue. And then people's like, okay, no more statues.
Right, yeah.
We're just going to eliminate statues completely from the budget. No more. But one of the things that this guy
Welcome to the Church of Anal Winking, everybody.
Everybody's just got, instead of crosses, they're just carrying on fists, like plastic fists. And if you want a plastic fist, you can go to adamandeve.com. Glory checkout. But anyway.
And there was a brown star in the east.
Anyway, the best part about this is later on in the article, the guy is talking about the onboarding process for Dave Ramsey's job, for getting a Dave Ramsey job. And it essentially was a 3-day workshop where they just talk to you about Dave Ramsey and how awesome he is. And the guy says, literally nothing to do with my job whatsoever, except for learning about Team Dave. So it's like a cult too. It's like culty.
I loved this. Yeah. For my day job, I took notes. I'm just going to do this. Every time, it's just going to be like, you guys are going to do an intensive 3-day Tom workshop.
At the end, they have to smell different things and decide whether it's you or not. Yeah.
Like bloodhounds. the first
They're like, that's his beard wax. I can tell.
I should have left you on that street corner where you were standing. But you didn't.
So this is so mean. This is the grinchiest story that ever grinched.
Super grinchy, dude.
So story comes from the New York Times, Italy Dispatch. Italian bishop gives children harsh news. There is no Santa Claus. I gotta read.
Yeah,
just so you don't get mixed up.
You read the first paragraph because it's a great setup.
It is.
It's a great setup.
Rome. All that separated the giddy Sicilian school children from meeting old Saint Nick, arriving on horseback with his long white beard, crimson robe, and bag full of gifts, was a Christmas message from the Bishop of Noto. Santa Claus, thundered Bishop Antonio Stagliano, is an imaginary character. I had to thunder it.
I love it so much. He's an imaginary character.
Children's jaws dropped and the holiday wool fell from their eyes as, for many long minutes in the Santisimo Salvador Basilica, the bishop continued to stick it to Santa, who he said had no interest in families strapped for cash. The red color of his coat was chosen by Coca-Cola for advertising purposes.
He's not wrong.
The bishop said. Big soda, he added, uses the image to depict itself as an emblem of family values. What's crazy about this is an Italian Catholic tradition where like bishops come out and like ruin Santa for kids.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What the fuck, man? We are atheists and we let the kids believe in Santa because who fucking cares?
Because who cares?
Because who cares?
Because it doesn't do anything. Like everybody breaks away from Santa eventually, right? You eventually get to it. And in some ways, it's a good lesson in critical thinking.
Yes.
Right? It shows you, one, you shouldn't just automatically believe whatever your parents tell you, right? So that's number one. And number two, it allows them to discover something on their own.
It allows them to discover that magic has a more prosaic explanation.
Yeah.
And like, it's actually funny because my youngest this week, I was talking to him, maybe it was last week. I think it was this. Anyway, it doesn't matter. My youngest very recently found out that there was no Santa Claus. He just kind of figured it out. Sure. He's 7. And my older boy figured it out about the same age. Yeah. And they both had almost the exact same reaction. It's really funny. They were both like, that was you guys all along?
Yeah.
And they were thrilled. They were like, what?
Yeah.
So all that and the cookies and the presents, it was you? They're not hurt by it. They're thrilled that the person that they're closest to was actually the person doing loving things for them.
Giving them stuff.
Right.
And they were being loving to them by leaving them cookies and milk and whatever.
It's like they find out that you made a piece of magic for them.
Yeah.
And that magic has an explanation that they can now touch and hug.
Absolutely.
And that's better. So like, there's no harm in like giving kids a little bit of whimsy and then offering them an opportunity at a developmentally appropriate time to discover on their own that whimsy is fake, right? Yeah. But you don't have to have the fucking bishop of the Catholic Church just fucking take his drawers down and fucking shit on everybody's dreams.
I know, right? He just takes a fucking, a big deuce in a fucking bag for Santa.
How fucking shallow and like scared and fucking thin are your fucking convictions that you're like, I don't want them to believe in any other mythical creatures other than my omnipotent, omniscient myth.
Right. Can I ask though, Tom?
Yeah.
If you got a bunch of Sicilian kids and they're sitting on Santa's lap, do they hit him in the face when they tell him what they want for Christmas? When they move their hands? When they're gesturing so wildly, they smack him in the eye. I want a football. I want a football. Oh, we're going to get a message about that.
You can't make fun of Italian people.
Even if you are.
God, yes, you can.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. That's my word.
Now I'm in your ass, yeah. I'm fucking you. Oh, I'm gonna sweat. I'm gonna come. I'm gonna get on your bum, on your face too, girl. You better know I'm gonna rock your world.
I thought this story was interesting too. It's from the AP News. I found it everywhere.
Yeah,
by the way. It got
a bunch of
picked up
people
fucking
everywhere. Yeah.
What's your religion? In U.S., the common reply is now none. It's 29%, man.
Yeah, man, it's big. It's getting
29%. It's like,
yeah.
No.
What upsets me though is, 10 years ago we had a conversation. You and I had a conversation about how long the show was going to last.
Yeah.
Because we figured at a certain point.
You want to have that conversation again, buddy?
Well, we figured at a certain point that the people who were listening, there was going to be a diminishing returns because people would not. There was going to be a point where people were all like, yeah, of course, all that stuff is dumb. And of course, there's no God.
Yeah, right.
And that we were sort of on the edge of it there where there wasn't a lot of people who were identifying as atheists, but we knew that number was going to grow. And we knew that the one thing that hasn't grown, though, is the skepticism along with it. What we thought was going to go hand in hand was the skepticism and atheism. Yep. We thought those were going to be hand in hand, and they are not. Well, in fact, many people will say, like, you can be an atheist and still believe in the craziest things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're skeptical at all.
Yeah, and the other thing that didn't go hand in glove with it is the political action that we thought would be associated.
I thought for sure it'd be humanist.
There's an immense amount of political apathy. This is, the majority of the 29% are young people, and they're not fucking voting.
Yeah.
So what you have is that you have a third of America, or damn near, right? 3 out of 10 people in America are not religious, but we are still ruled by what is increasingly becoming a slim majority.
A smaller and smaller section of the population.
It's something like 60% of America identifies as Christian.
Yeah.
It's the smallest amount ever.
And that is that's a big wide range. If you were to quiz all those people on a 1 to 10 scale, how Christian are you?
Right.
I'm sure there's 10s.
Yeah.
But I bet you there's plenty of people that'll be like, if you gave them, and I wouldn't just say how Christian are you, because that's not a good quiz. But
3.
if you gave them a bunch of different questions, like how often you go to church, how often you celebrate,
how much do you tithe,
blah blah blah. I'll bet you there's a big swath across America where there's some people that are barely Christian, and there's some people who are highly evangelical Christian.
I would count. I think my dad is like nominally Christian.
Yeah, barely
Christian.
Christian.
I think he generally believes, because why not?
Yeah.
But in terms of like, he's not going to go to church. Yeah. He's not going to do anything. He's never said a prayer that not since I was a kid.
My two parents, they were both like, I would say like a 2 or a 3. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where they were their whole life. So, but I know that there's plenty of people out there that are 12s, 8s, and then there's some people that are fucking infinity.
Right.
Like you can't rate me.
Right. Yeah.
I'm that fucking crazy. But
there's always one set of footprints.
but what is interesting though is that none of this ever happened. To none of the things that we thought were going to happen.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, you had started to mention. You mentioned politics, but I was thinking more ethics. I thought, again, it was going to be of a humanist bent. I thought for sure that this was going to be, atheism was going to be a brand new reaction, and it was going to be more humanist because people would be like, well, fuck, there's no God to take care of people. The churches are lying to us. We got to do something. Let's pitch in and do something about it. And instead, I don't see that. I see that there's a big swath of atheism that's anti-humanist. That's they're just they're the fuck your feelings crowd. I don't know what to call them, but
I know exactly what you mean.
Anti-woke, maybe, I guess, is what they call themselves. So.
Well, I think just thinking back to other conversations we have, you can be an atheist and still hold values around your dedication to the ideal of freedom, personal freedom, which puts you firmly in the right-wing camp.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something that I didn't anticipate.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And but it is amazing that a third or nearly a third of the country identifies as a nun, and we are still ruled by theocrats.
Yeah.
How are we letting that happen? We are, right now, 60% of America is Christian, and we are absolutely ruled by theocrats.
Yeah.
It's a slim majority, man.
We have to understand, one, that the septuagenarians rule the country, right?
Yeah,
so,
I know.
we have to understand that first and foremost. These people have
that's young people's fault. That's not septuagenarians' fault. You can't blame that on the boomers. I got to head it off real quick. I know you weren't even going there, but like, it makes me crazy because it's like, we blame the boomers for what? For showing up to fucking vote when you didn't?
Yeah.
There's more of you.
Yeah.
You outnumber the boomers, assholes.
Yeah. And what's going to happen soon is that there's going to be a point in history where your vote's not going to matter anymore.
Right.
Because they've already taken these steps to redistrict and change things so that they've cemented their power. And so if we don't do something serious, we're going to wind up in a situation where even if you do vote, it's not going to matter.
Yeah. If you're waiting for your time to become politically relevant, it's fucking yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like, it couldn't be more fucking immediate.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I mean, I know we said on the show, but like, if you don't take it, it's fucking your fault. It's not the boomer's fault.
Yeah.
The boomer shows up individually to vote.
Yeah.
Only one fucking boomer at a time.
Yeah, one boomer a vote.
Every time you don't show up to vote, you give the boomer extra power.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you don't like that we're ruled by septuagenarians, there is a way to fix that, man.
Yeah.
The septuagenarians aren't in power because a bunch of millennials couldn't figure out, or Xers, I'll raise my generation's hand. We're not voting enough.
Yeah. So,
fuck that.
So the people who run this country, their religiosity is a much higher rate.
Absolutely.
Much higher rate. We're talking about younger people that are coming in as nuns. These are not older people there's not a bunch of septuagenarians that are waking up tomorrow as atheists.
They're just reading Hitchens.
They have 50 years in a church to just reject all that shit.
Right.
They're going to stay that way forever.
The $3,000.
Oh, I don't have that much money.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really make sense to do it anyway, so.
Well, maybe if I can figure out another form of payment?
You mean like a check? Yeah, that's fine.
No, I mean like maybe if you take care of my pipes, I can take care of your pipe.
Ma'am, I do my own plumbing.
This story comes from Raw Story. Atheists are among the most likely to be vaccinated for COVID, and white evangelicals are among the least. And I almost didn't put this in there because it's one of those like, well, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah.
Kind of stories. The white evangelicals have been whipped up by the right-wing politicians.
That's what it is.
To poison the vaccine.
Yeah. Which
crazily, their guy, to hear them tell it, their guy helped to champion. I've never in my life seen somebody both take credit for and denigrate the same thing that they took credit for.
Yeah.
And somehow do both things in the eyes of their supporters successfully.
Yeah, no, it's 100% cognitive dissonance.
That's the weirdest shit. You've got to be like,
crazy.
So you're responsible for warp speed, and that's good, but the product of warp speed is bad?
I don't know that he said that. I don't know that he said it's bad.
No, but he's like, it's your choice.
Yeah, he's not as forceful as he should be. That's for damn sure.
Right.
He's even said he's been vaccinated. He got laughed off the stage or shouted down in Alabama when he mentioned it. You know what I mean? So he gets booed. Yeah. He knows it's not going to win him a cheer. And so he'll never do it. He'll never talk about it because it's not going to win him a cheer. Yeah. I want to say, though, you're absolutely right, Tom. They have poisoned this whole well by essentially turning this argument into a political argument. So it's when we say it's, people that are atheists or people that aren't believers that's because most of the people that are on the right are Christian conservatives.
Yeah. And they're older.
And they're older. And so that's why those numbers are different. And it's because they poison the well politically. This is a political issue. It should never be a political issue. It should be a scientific issue. It should not be a political issue. There should be no politics. In fact, every single politician in our government that decries vaccines or says anything about personal freedom or any of that stuff there should be something that should happen to them for not having the entire public's good in their mind. They're essentially attacking the most vulnerable parts of our public by allowing people and giving people those outs to not get vaccinated.
The thought just occurred to me. I wonder if, and this won't happen, but I'm curious what your thoughts are. If there shouldn't be we've talked about prerequisites for lawmaking on this show, but I wonder if another way to approach the complexities of dealing with modern life would be to say, look, we have scientific issues are too complex for everybody to understand. We need to recognize that. And so we're going to set aside a certain committee of qualified Congress people, and they're the ones that get to vote on issues that fall in the science category.
Don't they do that? Try to do that now, but that's just political appointments now.
Yeah, those are like
there's a science committee or whatever, but they're all just political.
But I think everybody in Congress doesn't get a vote on everything.
Yeah, right.
So if it comes to hey, this is an issue about the reality of a scientific question or medicine, climate change, etc., the only people that should be allowed to vote on that question shouldn't be up to 538 people.
Right.
Because fucking 532 of them are fucking scientifically illiterate.
What is a guy who's fucking animal husbandry degree going to tell you about? Yeah.
And I would put myself in that. If I were running a list of qualifications, I'd be like, yeah, I should be excluded from that.
Sure.
I have a fucking bachelor's in English literature. Put me in the no column.
Yeah.
I don't know enough.
Yeah.
I should not be able to vote on that.
Right.
But maybe we should have an advisory committee or a vote. You know what I mean? Everything shouldn't be up to the fucking general fucking 538 masses.
Yeah, I am so appalled that there's so many people that, we see the data that masks help. We see the data that, vaccines help. We see the data about all these things, social distancing helped. All these things that are just there. There's just data on it. And yet there's still people who want to fight about personal freedom.
I know.
And that is the only thing that matters to them and to their constituency. So you'll get Ted Cruz saying, how dare Big Bird tell people to get vaccinated. And it's because he's pandering to a group of people. Because Ted Cruz got fucking vaccinated.
Of course he did.
He's one of the first people in line to get vaccinated.
Man, if you want your fucking life back, you got to do the stuff. You just, all of us, you just got to do the stuff. I fucking want, I'm going to, and I know you had to do the same thing. So I'm going to physical therapy for my shoulder, right? So, and when I go to physical therapy, that guy actually works me really hard. So I'm fucking sweating and huffing and puffing. That dude works me pretty hard. And I have to wear a mask the whole time.
Yeah.
And I would much rather do that work without wearing a mask.
Sure.
I do not like working out wearing a mask. I aggressively dislike it. But I don't know what the end game on that is unless everybody gets on board.
Yeah.
If you want your personal freedom, you gotta just sacrifice a little and you get it all back. Otherwise, you're just gonna have fucking fits and starts and fucking little dribbly drabbly bits of it.
Yeah.
Without further interruption, let's celebrate and read some book.
So for this week on Cogdis Book Club, we read chapter 19 of Demon Haunted World, No Stupid Questions. And this chapter is essentially about the lack of critical thinking, the lack of science education in the United States. It's really pointing a finger at the United States, comparing us to other parts in the world throughout most of the chapter on how poorly we do in science, even though some of the best some of the best of our and brightest of our science, of the science minds, the young science minds, are some of the best in the world.
Yep.
It's just that it's not widely known and it's not widely taught. It's taught to very specific people in the United States, privileged people who can have that education that other people can't, or that's not widely available. Yeah. And he starts the chapter out talking about, how interested really young people are, and how you start to drop off with your interest in science and other things as time goes on. School becomes hated instead of becoming a thing of, wonder. And so it's really just it does eventually come, the eventual, I think, thesis of the whole thing is that we just need to do better. We just need to do better.
Yeah, I could not help as I was reading to this chapter, I couldn't help but think, man, he wrote this so many years ago.
Yeah.
And what he was saying is, without a scientifically literate populace, it doesn't do us any good to have an ultra scientifically literate elite. We need that. But we also need to have a scientifically literate populace. Yeah. And if we don't have that, we are in real trouble. And he wrote this 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And what we have is a scientifically illiterate public. And we're in real trouble because of it.
Trouble, yeah.
And I'm reading this, Cecil, I'm fucking reading this thing out loud. And I'm kind of struggling to rein in my desire to laugh out loud in sadness.
Sure.
Or to comment and be like, we're not going to do it. Yeah. We're not going to do it, Carl. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it's going to kill 800,000 of us.
Yeah. And it did.
And it did.
Yep.
And it's I don't know when we're going to get the message or if we will.
Yeah.
I worry that we won't. That we need a scientifically literate public.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a baseline of scientific literacy that is significantly better than what we have now. And if we don't have it, we're going to increasingly fail because the threats that we will face are continuing to, they scale up.
Yeah.
They scale up in their ability to hurt us as we interact more, as the world gets more complex, etc. But without exactly what fucking Carl is saying, we're boned, dude.
Yeah.
And he was saying 25 years ago, you're going to be boned if you don't do this.
Sure. Just think about, the scientific, and I don't know that it's scientific illiteracy, but there is a level of, there's a bunch of people in this country that don't think climate change is real.
Right.
Or they think that climate change is not a big deal, or they think that climate change is natural, or they think, there's all these people, they have different ranging ideas. When, the large consensus on climate change and we're talking 99% of scientists, the only one is the guy that fucking Ken Ham hired or whatever. But the rest of them are all no, this is a real threat. Right. And there was an article this week that came out that showed it was 100, something 100 faces, not faces, but 100 vignettes about climate change.
Oh, God,
as you scroll through, it's just all the different things that are happening in our world right now. These are happening in our world right now. Carl's talking about them before. Acidification. In this chapter, he's talking about acidification of the ocean.
Right.
In this chapter, he's talking about global warming. He never realized how bad it would get in 25 years. He had no idea.
Yeah.
Nobody knew how bad it was going to get in 25 years. It's terrible now. We're experiencing storms that we never seen before during times of years we never seen before. We're experiencing colder temperatures in areas that we're experiencing highs in places that are way above that we ever could, because the weather patterns are changing.
Dude, Siberia was at 100 degrees the other day. 100 degrees in Siberia. There is 65 in December in the Midwest, and there were tornadoes that ripped through 4 states.
Sure.
There's an ice shelf. I was just reading this fucking story. There's an ice shelf in Antarctica, the Thwaite ice shelf. I may be mispronouncing that. I'm sorry. I know we have an Antarctic listener. Please email me your correction. But they're saying that it is the size of Florida.
Yeah.
And it's finna crack off in 3 years.
Yeah.
And when it does, when that thing melts, which it'll take some time to melt, but once it cracks off, it'll melt, it'll drift around 2 feet of ocean rise, 2 feet of sea level rise.
Just from that.
Just from that.
Insane.
2 feet, man.
Yeah.
That goodbye Fiji. Fiji's gone.
Yeah.
Fiji's not 2 feet. Like goodbye New Orleans all the way up to this shit is happening.
Yeah.
It's not maybe gonna.
Yeah.
It's happening
It's absolutely
now.
happening. Yeah. And Carl was decrying it back then.
Yep.
You know, we're seeing it now, but there's still people that will look you in the face
And say it's not
and say
real.
it's not happening.
I
There's
know.
nothing going on. This is, that's how weather is all the time.
Yep.
You know, that's just strange and just crazy and whatever.
Well, it was cold last week.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They'll point at that, but we absolutely need something to. And I thought, you know, maybe COVID was going to be that thing that pinched us all when it first came out, because there was a real push from, I think, everybody when it first started. You know, for that first month, everybody was like, yeah, vaccine's going to save us. Let's get a vaccine.
Yeah.
I think that most people were on the fence.
A lot of
sure,
people.
Sure. Yeah. You know, you're going to get people that are anti-vaxxers. They were going to be there anyway. But, you know, within a month, pandemic was out. Within a month, pandemic was out.
I know.
So, you know, people were all either ready to make money off of it or ready to lie to people or ready to just like think up some crazy theory on their own and then spread it. And, you know, and the internet transforms this misinformation from what used to be simple, you know, misinformation of just a dummy to now thousands of linked dummies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's the real problem. So, it was a really interesting chapter. I got to say, I loved it. I thought it was, you know, again, it's what I love about it is you get what you can still see. Carl talks about wonder of young people in the beginning. And what you can still see is Carl's wonder as he talks about the things that make him think throughout, which I think is really great.
It
you
is.
know,
Yeah.
He talks about, well, what about this thing? And what about this thing? And what about this thing? And he's talking about all these different things in nature. And you can't help but smile and think, well, yeah, you know, he's set his life on that course of wonder.
And he's not like reluctant to share just the sort of like simple joy like that sort of brings him.
Yeah.
And it's marvelous.
Yeah. So next week, chapter 20, I don't know if 20 is House on Fire or not, but House on Fire is coming soon, and I'm sure that's going to be really sad. Join us for CogDis Book Club. Buy this book, Demon Hunted World. We're having a blast reading it. Check it out. It's a hoot. So you want to get it if you can.
Patrons, I'll read it to you.
Patrons, Tom's reading it. So. We are back for another session of Vulgarity for Charity. We want to thank everybody, of course, again for the record-breaking donations that came in. And we are joined again by the Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy of our mystery gang, Noah, Heath,
I
and
have
Eli.
never been more insulted.
Which one do you think you are in that group?
It was implied that I am the Scrappy, and I.
How is
That's
that
the
an
best
insult?
one.
That's I'll swap you for Scrappy.
What?
Scrappy Doo's
Scrappy is Scrappy.
And hear me out.
Scrappy kicks
Scrappy.
so much fucking
Scrappy
ass.
sucks so hard that the Scrappy became a in TV lingo for a character nobody likes.
I love Scrappy Doo.
Still kicked a lot of ass.
Okay, so before we jump in, have another round of those. So pure of heart and spirit that you just forked over dough without any demands. If you were our children, we wouldn't even ask for a paternity test. Well, I might because I have a vasectomy, but other people might not. So big thanks to Holly, Jeff L, D from EP, Amy H, and Drew.
And merci beaucoup to Aaron, James H, Brian and Laura, Matthew G, Sage, Carl K, and Jennifer B.
And a big muchos gracias to Dan A, George, Megan O, Stephanie, Barefoot, I'm assuming Bree, and Steve C, and Maggie, and BJ.
And of course, a great big Enkthey Uye to Justin, Dan, Richard D, Will H, Jared, Michael H, Wendy P, Lawrence, and Atheistic Snail.
Really, Tom? We went pay Latin?
Hey, Heath took Spanish, so I didn't.
Yep, that's all the
It's
languages.
legitimate language.
And believe it or not, we still have more of you generous folks to thank, but we'll do that on our final segment. All right, guys, this week, it's all about the high rollers. So shine up your wits and give your best. And what better place to start than a roast for Robert of Robert.
Yeah, so Robert didn't give us a lot to work with here. He included no biographical details, and the only picture is a somewhat blurry shot of him in a crowd. But I feel like when you're sporting a moldy-ass beard that looks like it's dying from the bottom up like he is, you already know what I'm going after. So why bother adding that, like, you're an anime fan or something? Like, Jesus, dude, your face looks like it should be hanging from the tree at some antebellum plantation or something. It looks like something you should call your landlord about. I mean, the red parts are like just shitty, unkempt beard, but those necrotic bits below that looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon's pubes.
And Eli, how about a roast of Missouri Governor Mike Parson for Tim and Jim Pitt?
Well, Mike Parson looks like Mr. Rogers going undercover as an asshole, like deep cover varsity poo hole. You know what I'm talking about?
He's right. He looks like the dean of a college for squirrels with a very troubling sexual assault policy. Like,
Yeah.
All right, wait, I got one for you here, Cecil. Gretchen would like a roast of their farm animals.
Okay, so their cows can't find the food that's in the same place every day. And I can't get too down on the cows because I stare at a pantry full of boxes, cans, 5 types of artisanal flour, and prepared foods that just need water. And I say there's nothing to eat. And then I order Grubhub and I wait for another human who picks up the food from really far away and he puts it right in front of my face.
Good system.
But I want to talk about these guinea hens. Here's what Gina wrote. Quote, "They also stand alone in the middle of a pasture, screaming for the others to find them. Hawks and owls find them just fine. Started out with 70 this summer, down to 30 within 3 months," end quote. Jesus. And I just want to say, you know, Gina, you're the guinea hen Dr. Fauci, right? You calmly tell all your hens about the dangers of predatory birds and give them lots of ways to protect themselves from this completely preventable fate. And then they go outside and they scream about how this is all made up and you need to follow the money. And it's just big raptor trying to control us. And they'll be damned if you could take away their freedom. And then in a blink of an eye, less than half of them are left. That's pretty much all right. Okay.
Cecil can say guinea hen, by the way. He's Italian.
Yeah. I was moving my hands the whole time I was saying that.
Now I'm picturing the hen in the... Oh, what's the matter with you? You're coming down here. You take my babies away from me.
Okay, this next one has you all over it. Kevin would like a roast of weddings.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. So you got a big party, catered food, open bar, maybe live music. It sounds great. How do you manage to fuck that up so bad? That's such a good concept. You fall in love and you make some illogical grand proclamations about it. All of a sudden, that amazing party I just described turns into the sleepover for the shitty spoiled kid that your mom makes you go to because that kid's mom called your mom and guilted her into it and you have to go because of social convention. Like, all right, fine. Yeah, I'll go to whatever shitty kid's party. I guess we get him a Nintendo game. Nope. Here's a list of approved gifts for that party. Also, you have to buy pajamas for $1,000. They are $1,000. No regular ones. Very expensive pajamas. Will they be comfortable? They will not be comfortable pajamas. They will be layered, and you will dance in those very sweaty, expensive, uncomfortable pajamas. And if you don't dance, everybody will gaslight you about how everyone likes dancing in very expensive, sweaty, uncomfortable pajamas at weddings. They're awesome. Also, there's a rehearsal sleepover the night before. I forgot to mention it. You have to be there, too. You have to. Is it long? Yes, it's very long. It's very long. And then you get to the actual party. You finally get to the actual party. And you have to, like, fill out paperwork and get assigned a sleeping bag section that's either close or far away from the birthday kid based on how much they like you, and that's measured. And then maybe it finally seems like you're having fun. You get through all this, you're having a drink, eating some appetizers. They're very small, but they're fine. They're fine. They're being passed around. And then the shitty kid's dad is like, bing, bing, bing. Everybody say 3 nice things about my shitty kid right now. You go first. You right there. You go right now. Say nice things. It's the fucking worst.
So let's start you off with a challenge. Venture Free would like a roast of, quote, the most beloved, least deserving person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event ever to be roasted. Have at it.
All right. So on a flight a few years before the end of the world happened, I watched a documentary about Mr. Rogers. And then right there on an airplane full of people, I began to tear up. The man was legitimately a treasure, and I, for one, am glad he's fucking dead. Because what separated Mr. Rogers from the rest of us is that he had this unique ability to remember and understand and cherish exactly what it felt like to be a kid. Most of us don't have that. We know we were kids, but most of us can't remember what it really felt like. And we've lost our compassion for what that means. Kids are social inconveniences rather than a stage of human development. They're seen as something less than fully human, not yet actually people. When Mr. Rogers sat in front of Congress and testified to the radical idea that we treat young people not as some separate and lesser being, but as actual human beings worthy of the same respect, attention, and resources we devote to adults, he swayed the hearts of even the heartless. And now he's fucking dead, and that's good. Because we didn't stay the course. We abandoned that fucking ship pretty much the moment we could. His efforts to teach compassion and empathy by modeling a gentler, more vulnerable, and mature way of moving through the world were, it seems very clear now, entirely pointless. Can you imagine a Mr. Rogers in the age of YouTube and Twitter? How outmoded and utterly fucking useless we now know his special brand of quiet dignity is when compared to the endless vacuum of TikTok and Tinder. Mr. Rogers was, it must be said, fucking delusional if he thought he could call upon and improve the better angels of our nature. And when I think of him, all I can say is that I am gratified that he is nothing more than a rotting corpse, unable to see how completely wrong he was about everything.
Yikes.
I feel
All
like
right,
you
Eli?
cheated. I feel like you roasted everything but Mr. Rogers. Ultimately.
Don't call it out for what it is. God damn it.
All right. Eli,
He's Christian.
got another one for you here. Marcus would like a roast of Alex Arnett by friend of the show, Aaron Rabinowitz, but we didn't see this until it was too late. So we actually just...
any Jew in the storm. I get it, Cecil. I get it.
You said it, not me, buddy.
Okay.
You said it.
Marcus did not include a picture. Love that, by the way, donors, when it's someone I've never heard of and you just say how nice they are. It gives me a ton to work with. It's great for my job.
Right.
But luckily for me and Tom and Mr. Rogers' dead body, we live in the time of Facebook. So I can confirm that Alex is Thomas Smith's stunt double. He looks like he's going to talk to you about farm-to-table kombucha while you're recovering from the kidney he gave you so that it's almost not worth it. Right? You're like 20 minutes into that, you're like, you can have this back if you shut the fuck up.
And Heath, Denny and their wife would like a roast of their friend Dorothy.
Okay, so Dorothy is an anti-vaxxer. And
How dare you? He's included a picture in the notes. I'm so sorry.
How good is this? I will get there. I will get to the picture, Eli. I will get to the picture.
What is...
So, but I'm going to start by pointing out the anti-vaxxer thing. Also, I'm going to point
Jesus
out
Christ.
she has a giant photo on her lawn of Donald Trump hugging the American flag. Do you remember that photo?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you remember it, you might remember that it's actually more like Trump getting rejected for a hug by fabric. So the fabric didn't really want to make physical contact with Trump's gross body, and it's rejecting the hug a little bit. So she's a horrible person on the inside, and that's what matters, right? That's what really matters. But we're going to talk about the outside. And I have, as Eli mentioned, included a picture. The outside of this human being might actually be worse against all odds, even after you heard about anti-vaxxer and Trump shit.
The more you look at it, the worse it gets.
Right?
It's
Don't look
amazing.
directly into it.
There are more details every time I look.
It's crazy. Did you make it bigger? Yeah, you made it bigger. Yeah. She looks like, I think this is very accurate. She looks like she went to a bachelorette party and the theme was Trail of Tears. Like, and to be clear, this is a white lady. A bunch of white, horrible people had a bachelorette party, Trail of Tears themed. She's the mascot for the Washington appropriation team. It's just rough.
Is that Christmas lights and a cotillion bow? Everyone has to do the rest of my roasts. I'm going to be looking at this picture until I wither away in front of this
I'll
computer.
reduce it back down.
Thank you.
No, this one's right up your alley. Thomas would like a roast of Mormon apostle Jeffrey R. Holland, who Eli roasted last week.
Oh yeah, God, fuck this. So he's the one that made headlines last September by chastising the BYU faculty for not being homophobic enough.
Jesus
right? Like
Christ.
ever since they stopped trying to shock the gay out of students by electrocuting their balls way back in the mid 90s. Yes, that's true.
What?
I guess the little stamps that he put on the side of his plane when his religion bullied an LGBTQ person in a suicide aren't multiplying fast enough, right? So he made a whole big speech where he openly pined for the good old days. And if you're wondering what kind of speech it was entirely framed in war analogies. He used the word fire 10 times, musket 8 times, and made multiple references to wounds and scarring.
Jesus.
Also, he looks like Herman Munster chose poorly. All right. And Cecil, one right back for you. The Jewish monk would like a roast for their friend Bradley.
So Bradley is a guy who says he's a Mormon, and I guess that means he can catcall female instructors in front of the class and get away with it because he's like, come on, come on. But the real egregious part of all this is that he's a Sargon fan.
Fuck
now
you.
I only know Sargon because he tried to shoulder bump Tom at one time at a convention to intimidate him, and it was like a pigeon trying to shoulder bump a skyscraper window. but being a Sargon fan means that he isn't a bully himself. Instead, he's a bully voyeur.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's not being an actual pile of dog shit yourself, but instead, Bradley is the maggot on top of that pile, drinking it in and celebrating its splendor. Tom, Jamie V would like a roast of their soon-to-be ex-husband, Andrew.
All right, imagine for just a moment that you are a cop living in, you gotta go with
you have
me
to
here.
tell me.
Imagine you're a cop living in, of all hellholes, Florida. And then your wife goes to grad school and she becomes successful in her career. Now, you have two choices, as I see it. The first option would be
Kill
to
yourself.
Yeah, that's before. The first option would be to put down the various implements of your enforcement of a racist and fascist regime maintained through violence and oppression and gratefully celebrate the upgrade in your life's opportunities that your wife's choices have afforded you. Or option two, you can watch the tiny, pathetic worm of your dick shrink and wither as your fragile fucking ego collapses under the weight of its own desperate toxicity so that you ultimately are left alone and sweltering in the thick putrescence of Floridian heat with your utility belt of cruelty and oppression as your chief companions on your lonely voyage into ever-descending layers of capricious indifference and a need to dish out cruelty in a vain attempt to regain some small passing vestige of your own self-worth. Andrew, in case you're new here, chose option two. And while Jamie, I know you were hurt in the process, at the end of the day, it's always best to burn off the warts and be free.
Ian, Eli has put sweet rock guitar licks here. So, yeah,
Thank
so
you.
As
Yes.
he says,
Just
squanana
sample
now. We want to
he's squanana
squanana
now.
now here.
Like,
That's all I want now.
Will you auto-tune me?
Well, if you put some distortion behind a squinting and now, I think it'll work.
Be careful. You could win a Grammy.
That's the sweet satanic guitar licks, and you know what that means. It's time for a little segment we call 666 Burns. Another section of sweet guitar licks here.
How would those sound, Heath, if they were to...
Just like that.
Reference is important. Whoa!
The following folks donated $666 for their roast. So your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is in addition to the roast, tell us just what this person's hell will be like. Noah, let's start with you. Why don't you roast the Space Force for...
Oh my God, yes.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca. Who knew how weirdly appropriate that racist, separate but equal introduction would be, right?
They actually use this
But like, if you ever imagine what the like colored drinking fountain of military branches would
Jesus
look
Christ.
like, you imagine the goddamn Space Force. These motherfuckers are going to build our X-Wing fighters. Yo, they can't figure out pants.
No, we're wearing them backwards. We're wearing them backwards.
Have y'all seen their first attempt at pants? I'm serious about this, listeners. Google the Space Force uniform pants. The internet backlash when they revealed that it was so bad that the Space Force apologized for their pants and promised to redesign a la the Sonic the fucking Hedgehog movie preview. Right? It's like they're wearing an uninflated bouncy castle from the waist down.
Yeah.
It looks less silly if they just had put jungle camouflage on a spacesuit. Oh, and their hell would be this exact time.
Yes, it would.
Actually,
Along with us, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true of most of us, really.
Yeah.
Do you guys sew a front butt into this?
Yeah,
Is there a
they have
front
a poopy front? They have a poopy front, right? Like it's somehow poopy.
Listeners, you have to Google this because Noah has included this picture in our notes. And the woman on the left, she's keeping it chill. But the man on the right, he knows. The man on the that is very clearly like a NASA scientist, somebody. And they were like, Dave, you'll wear these, right? And he was like, no.
Eli, what will hell be like for Final Fantasy XIV's Gaia?
Oh, probably appropriately clothed. This is a Final Fantasy character, so while everyone around her is dressed like a sharpness-themed clown, she, of course, is dressed like a Hot Topic-themed escort. Also, Square, you're not fooling everybody. She's not a cool, standoffish character. You just didn't want to animate her face, guys. I get it. Everyone's having a hard time.
All right, Tom, a little bit of a curveball for you. What awaits the American sexual education system in the Lake of Fire?
Oh, the American sex ed system? You mean where we arm teenagers with unhealthy and unscientific ideas extolling the virtues of abstinence, which they will absolutely ignore, shield them from access to any meaningful tools for contraception and disease control, ignore the diversity of human sexual expression, and pretend that all of this happens, or doesn't, in a vacuum devoid of any need to interact kindly and lovingly with themselves and their partners, while still incredibly making sure that nearly every teenager in America has 24/7 access to any and all manner of porn that they can find but cannot contextualize on the internet? That American sex ed system? Well, I guess hell for that system would be to endlessly be stuck in a classroom whose text is a live-action pop-up version of The Joy of Sex as taught by a Finnish lesbian. All right, Cecil, how about you tell us what's in store for Kunal, Liz, and Sam's sister, Gopika?
Gopika sounds terrible. What kind of horrible shithead daughter puts her mom in danger by not getting vaccinated and then living with her? Ugh. She's getting free trips to other parts of the world and complaining about them. She's so selfish and entitled. She's Caillou's spirit animal. She's just a forgettable brat. She's Veruca Salt substitute. For her version of hell, I'd say she should have to work in the service industry for an endless stream of people like her. That means these demanding assholes are going to run her ragged and leave her a 5% tip, which is what she tips, by the way, is 5%.
Yeah.
5%. She's the worst.
Hitler.
Also, she looks like someone shaved the Muppet drummer and just left the eyebrows. That's the only thing.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
that's like as bad as not tipping.
5%
Right?
before, yes, 5% is worse than
That's
not
an
tipping.
insult.
That is a
Right,
challenge.
yes, it's a fuck you tip.
That is
Yeah.
a challenge to a fight. That is like a cordial invitation to a fist fight.
You're
Absolutely.
allowed to punch somebody in the face if they leave a 5% tip. That's my official
Smack 'em
policy.
with a glove. Yeah.
Heath, why don't you close out our 666 burns with one for Colin's mom's anti-vax nurse, Sharon?
Yeah. Okay, this is an anti-vax nurse who was somehow allowed to provide in-home hospice care.
What?
And not in like a good euthanasia way. She's a literal terrorist. Now, I know the word literal gets overused, but not here, not right now. That's terrorism. You're a biological warfare fucking terrorist. So I'm usually anti-Gitmo, but not right now. Not right now. I feel like we expand out Gitmo. We make it the anti-vaxxer quarantine zone. We blast the dubstep in there. We do fingernail stuff. You get waterboarded. Like, we're not getting any information from the torture. I'm just saying we do that. I don't know. We just do it. And the waterboarding, it's actually a homeopathic remedy for COVID. So you're all welcome. And I'd say that what I just described was the anti-vax nurse's personal hell, but it's not. It's not. She'd be smug about how she totally predicted this exact persecution on Facebook by the libs and the big government. Her actual hell would be her kid going to public school with science education and critical race theory. And when Sharon, her name is Sharon, by the way, it's
Of
almost
course.
Karen. It's really fucking close. Her name's Sharon. When Sharon's on her deathbed, in her final moments of consciousness, her daughter is going to lean in close and say, I vaccinated you when you were sleeping last night. Enjoy hell, you bitch.
That's the round. Before we wrap up, we've got a few special requests. Let's see who gets special requests. All right, let's check this out. And when you're giving this kind of money, we'll do whatever you want, starting with Jennifer, who would like a roast of Dan Snyder from Noah.
Oh, what a good. So yeah, Dan Snyder is like if a snit came to life, right? This is, of course, the owner of the NFL team that was formerly known as the Washington Racial Epithets and is now called the fucking... But now it's the Washington, if I can't have my slur, nobody gets a name, right? This is a man who literally sued season ticket holders who had to cut and run during the Great Recession. He charges fans to tailgate in the parking lot. And when fans started bringing signs to the game about what an asshole he was, he banned signs in the stadium.
That's so amazing.
He had security guards eject people wearing shirts that mentioned what a fucking asshole he was. But of course, he's perhaps most famous for sexual harassment and creating a workplace that's hostile to women even by the standards of the NFL.
Yeah, yikes.
Yeah. He also, I didn't realize this until I started researching for this roast, had a bunch of old growth forest in a national park illegally plowed because it was blocking his view of the river.
What?
Nice.
Yeah, he's like all the sniveling type villains in every work of fiction somehow fuse.
He's plunging a plunger on a teen center right fucking now.
Okay, Eli, this next special request is for you. Donnie would like a roast of those who use social media to sell merchandise. And my special request is that you do it as a person who uses social media to sell merchandise.
Okay, hey girl, stop scrolling because you have to see my must-use product for the holiday. A soul. Yes, this is the one you've seen on TikTok, and I wasn't sure about it, but as soon as I saved this sound, I realized that preying on parasocial relationships to sell cheaply made plastic shit and skincare that doesn't do anything is just above child trafficking in morality. But it gets better. I do actually have an affiliate link for those guys, so check out the link in my bio, because if I sell enough of this, I'll still be poor, but I will have trapped myself in this cycle, so it's the only way I can express myself for my whole life.
Fuck. Okay, Heath, that special request for you. Corey and Michelle would like a roast of their lovely family, including their two sons, Jack, 11, and Andy, 9. And your challenge is to do it in the character of a family photographer trying to get your shot.
Okay. Hey, family. I'll be the photo guy who also says aggressively mean shit while I take your picture of your family. This is normal. So the original plan, by the way, was to roast Jack and Andy. That's what it said in the request. But that got vetoed by Mom because Jack and Andy, your mom wants to infantilize you. She doesn't think you can take it. All your shitty art, it's going to go up on the fridge and they're going to say it's good. And all your burgundy participation ribbons for hockey and whatever else, they're going to go on the wall because that's winning. No, it's not. No, it's not. Also, you're never going to own a house because capitalism is unfair to upper middle class white kids from California. It's really hard for all of you. Also, your mom looks like a box of white Zinfandel. Like, it fucked another box of white Zinfandel, and, you know, it was drunk on a box of white Zinfandel when that all happened. Okay, great photo. Here's my business card. I'm Heath from Heath's Photos and Roasts.
Tom, here's a special request. How about some good old-fashioned roasty toasty for Richard's coworker, Matt?
Okay, I don't usually go in on the appearance thing for my insults, but for Matt, I'm going to have to make an exception. Matt looks like if Smug and Wrong met in a dive bar just outside a military base and ugly fucked on the bathroom floor next to a pile of day-old vomit. Matt's that guy at your work that has weaseled his way up the food chain to the highest point of his staggering incompetence and has somehow wedged enough of his mistakes into the crevices of the organization that firing him seems tantamount to disassembling the whole machine. But I'll tell you what, Richard, it is worth disassembling the machine. I know because I have done it. Oh, Richard, It is worth it. You will wake up the morning of his departure without your alarm and sporting morning wood that you are afraid might last more than 4 hours, my friend. You will not need your coffee, and you will glide gently to work on the wings of vengeance angels. And after, when you are cleaning up the stinking...
while that's happening.
After, when you are cleaning up the stinking piles of fetid shit that guys like this always leave behind, it will be the most rewarding work you do, even if it pulls you away from friends and family for hours or days or weeks, because you'll know that you've excised that worthless cancer and this is important, and that you hurt him. Because you did. Guys like Matt think they are invulnerable. That perceived invulnerability is and always was their plan. And I am telling you that nothing in the world is as wonderful as seeing the absolute shock and horror and disbelief on the faces of the Matts of this world when you tell them that you will ship a box of their personal effects to their home and you take their fucking keys. Just do it, Richard. You never forget your first.
I'm scrolling here, Eli. I see one for Noah, special request for Noah, one for Eli, one for Keith, one for Tom. Oh, okay. I guess I just got roasted by everyone who submitted a roast. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. No special request for Cecil. Okay, let's wrap it up tonight. Some full team roasting for the most deserving, starting with Jacques and Miles, who would like us to roast Mitch McConnell.
Oh, nice.
Mitch McConnell looks like he's the shitty old chicken who just learned a valuable lesson from the younger chickens in an animated movie. Except he doesn't ever learn, so the best we can hope is that someone makes him into wings.
It looks like he has like the evolution version of Benjamin Button. You know what I'm saying? Like his face evolved backward into an amoeba, like a single celled, and the amoeba is melting now. He looks like primordial ooze in a suit. That's him.
Mitch McConnell looks like his skull is 2 sizes too small for his head skin. He's like a stress ball at the end of a long career. His cheeks look like someone had quickly repackaged a parachute and left some hanging out the side. He's like someone tried to stuff all that evil black stuff from The Fifth Element into an uncooked puff pastry.
Yes.
Oh, it's like the Space Force uniform pants of faces. Right?
That's the best one. That's so good.
Oh, well,
so
also
good.
he's evil on a level never before seen in American politics,
right.
and I say that knowing what that means. That it also deserves to have the flesh ripped from his bones while he's still alive. But yeah, the face.
It's like he's got face pleats, but with glue instead of stitching. Just random glue face pleats by hand. Yeah.
Mitch McConnell looks somehow like a flaccid turtle. Like when his skin turned black. Do you remember this when his skin turned black and it appeared he was rotting on the inside? Like
I think about it every day.
In that moment, I think he would have died, but he couldn't even get hard with rigor mortis.
Yeah. Nothing left to die.
Let's just think about it again. You remember when he was rotting?
I did like that. It just
almost dead.
One step away. One step.
TikTok.
All right. How about podcaster John Dullen? I'm going to go first here. John Dullen looks like an alternative reality good guy Bill Belichick that decided to coach Pee Wee hockey instead. And he's just happy everyone's having a good time out there, you know? He looks like a stunt double for a Men's Warehouse commercial.
I like John. John's very nice. I like his show, but he does look like his teeny tiny eyebrows are inching together in the hopes of forming a single normal-sized human brow in the middle of his forehead. Right? Like they talked it out and they're going to go for like a hyphen of hair for a bindi in the forehead and no one notices.
Don't feel bad about it, too. Some people have bigger eyebrows, some people don't. It's about how you use them, right? Right? And by the way, he looks like a podcaster.
Oh,
is what I like.
He
sure does.
Oh, that's low.
Here's one I know we've been looking forward to. Susan Collins, but our donors, Carl O. and 9-year-old son Samuel, have requested that you not roast Maine when you do it.
Okay, yeah, no, Maine gets enough of it. I get
Fuck
it.
Maine. Go ahead.
All right, but starting now.
Why would you do that to Sammy?
So Susan Collins is the fucking half-assedly reaching for the check, but not really of people. Right? She's like, if waiting for you to stand up before saying, do you want me to get it, could get its hair done. but didn't. No. That shit.
Susan Collins isn't the wolf from Little Red Riding Hood. She's the wolf's dinner guest. She'll lower her glasses and look down her nose at the wolf and shake her head when it kills the grandmother, and then she'll fry up Nana's liver with some thyme and shallots and a bit of red wine because it's a sin to let this thing go to waste. She's not going to say Jewish forced labor is right, but you can't deny this kind of crafty shit, guys.
Look at this lamp. Oh, shit. I'm concerned about this lamp.
What the fuck?
Susan Collins overturned Roe versus Wade.
Yep.
That's the only thing a history book is ever going to say about her. She imagines that she's dedicated herself to a lifetime of political service, but deep down, she knows she's just a coward and a traitor, and she will be remembered only for lacking the moral fortitude of Benedict Arnold.
Yes.
That's accurate. Okay, so you know how you're not supposed to say, I'm definitely a better black person than Ben Carson if you're white? Even though I clearly am a better black person. Well, I'm a better woman than Susan Collins. That's an absolute fact. I'm better of a woman than you. I'm better than you.
Yeah, Susan Collins thought it would be a good idea to gamble the future of the country against her overriding need to keep her job. Think about how small and crass that is. Imagine if any of you guys did the same thing. Imagine if you had a chance time and again to do the self-evidently right thing, but instead you checked the temperature of how doing the right thing would play against a backdrop of slack-jawed dipshits, and you let the capricious whims of those yokels dictate your moral compass, all so you could keep your actual fucking job. If as a podcaster, the audience senses that I have become a pandering simp, they will and they should turn on me like a pack of feral hounds. But this is the first and only line on Collins' resume. I hate Susan Collins, and I hope she gets stuck living in Maine forever. I couldn't help it.
Okay, you did it at the end there.
Almost made it.
Almost made it.
Sammy.
Sorry, Sammy.
9 years
Sorry,
old.
Sammy. Oh,
A glint in
gosh.
his eye.
Scarred him forever.
Bookends. Fuck Maine.
And last, and also in a lot of ways least, Jennifer G, a scathing girl, would like a roast of Bob Ellis. And I want to
How
start
is
off.
she least?
Lots of ways least. I don't know. I think
Wow,
the person
Cecil,
we're
why would you
roasting.
say that? That's
The person we're
crazy.
roasting, I think that's what Eli was getting at when he wrote that line. I don't know.
I see. Okay.
I want to start off by giving you my condolences for losing your mom last month. I lost my mom several years ago, and I'm not sure you ever really get over it. But this pastor
over
is
my
an
dad.
absolute fucking... Okay, that's inappropriate.
That's
Okay,
good.
but this pastor is an absolute piece of work. Who stands in front of people at a funeral and downplays the goodness of the deceased? He should just stand outside a cemetery with a sign that says, meh, they weren't that great. Come on, you agree, right? Come on. And him telling everyone you don't have to be good to get into heaven is the only way he can convince a bunch of shithead, morally bankrupt suckers to pay his rent.
Yep. Also, he looks like if you made like a paper mache model of Montgomery Burns where you used earwax instead of flour.
Yes.
He also looks every bit the guy who would work the phrase, but don't answer yet into a eulogy, which is apparently exactly what he is. See, this ignominious shit rivulet turned Jennifer's mom's funeral into, in her own words, an infomercial for Christianity. He's the kind of ignominious shit rivulet, in fact, that sees the suffering of others as a sales lead. And the hardest part of his job is no doubt concealing his excitement when he learns that somebody with a real big family died.
Jesus.
He's a societal tumor, and that's probably why he looks so much like something you would go to a doctor to have removed.
Wow, Jennifer, I know this guy ruined your mom's funeral by pushing his religion on everyone, but you didn't have to push him into the cremator and leave him there for 8 or 9 hours. That's not. Oh, unless that's just what his face looks like.
It does, though.
In which case, I have no idea why this man is afraid of hellfire. Like,
Right?
I'd be like, oh, what are you going to do? Burn me? Come on.
It's like a spa for
Okay,
him.
yeah.
Seriously, somehow he has resting, exploding cigar face. Like, that's all the time. He looks like a cigar
So good.
just exploded in his
Concise.
face.
I like it.
It's a
Concise.
beak on the back of his head. Yep.
Pastor Bob Ellis spent your mom's service running his Crazy Eddie Discount Jesus Emporium sales pitch because in his mind, he actually thinks that shit is comforting. This is a guy who believes that in heaven, you get a mansion, which is a very weird thing to want or need in heaven.
Yes, thank you.
But it does make total sense if among your many failures, you are also saddled with a deep and abiding failure of imagination.
Yeah.
Bob couldn't get anything about your mom right because he didn't know your mom any more than an accountant is friends with his ledger book. To Bob, your mom and everyone else on earth is a goal, a name to notch on a cross as another soul saved. Your mom deserved so much better than that, so much more. Console yourself with this. When it is Bob's turn to go, no matter who gives that eulogy, it too will be an empty, repetitive talking points commercial, hollow and devoid of meaning. The difference being that his eulogy will perfectly capture exactly who he is.
Yeah. All right. So we have one more to go. That's going to be on scathing. Guys, we're wrapping this up real quick. Thank you so much for joining us and doing this and inviting us along.
Shouldn't this take an extra year and a half? I feel like
I know, right? I feel like
a year and a half.
I feel like I'm going to miss
Let's just stall the last one.
Let's just let's just do one a week.
We'll just read it real slow.
We'll do another one in spring.
So we'd like to thank our patrons. Of course, we'd like to thank all our patrons, like thank our newest patrons, Dan, Matthew, Kelly, and Vern. Thank you so much for your generous donations.
Thank you, guys.
You guys make the show go round. Just letting you know, we're able to pay the salary of our employees, give them modest bonuses around Christmas time because of you.
We're job creators.
Yeah, because we're job creators.
Great jobs.
Well, you guys are job creators. We're the people who also help. So, but thank you. No, seriously, without you guys, we wouldn't be able to pay people who work for us and pay for the services that we use to make this podcast happen.
Absolutely.
So we want to talk about a little bit of email that we got this week. We got a message from Phoenix, and Phoenix said, he's like, I love you guys, but you guys dropped the ball on homelessness. He said, over 500,000 people, and every single one is batshit crazy on drugs and doesn't want help. That's the message I took from what you said. We talked about homelessness last episode in a very brief, one-off, quick message where Tom and I were on a back and forth about something. And I had mentioned, we mentioned that we don't take care of the homeless in this country, and we don't take care of the people who are also mentally ill in this country. In fact, many of them wind up homeless. And I said some of them refuse care. I think, Phoenix, you might have misheard what we had said on the show.
And I just for clarification, we're doing a disservice to the homeless in this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do not have proper mental health care. We don't have proper social safety nets. There should not be, in a rich society, there shouldn't be homelessness.
Yes.
It is a crime against our own citizenry that there is anybody homeless.
Yeah.
So any other message, I'm sorry if it came across any other way. Cecil and I both feel very strongly that it is the failure of our social safety net and governmental systems to take care of its own fucking citizens and provide for their basic needs. There should not be homelessness in a polite and wealthy society. There is no excuse for there to be an Elon Musk and one fucking homeless person.
Yeah, absolutely. No, both of us agree on that. And I don't feel like that's what we were talking about. But if that's the message you got, the wires were certainly crossed. You did send a link. I'll try to include the link for invisiblepeople.tv on this week's show notes so people can check it out. It's just it's a way to help understand homelessness in the United States. So I will post it or have Ian post it on this week's show notes. Thank you, Phoenix, for sending in a message. We got a bunch of messages about your roast about suicide, Tom.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, thank you to the people that sent in a message. I think it struck a nerve with some people. Suicide it's a touchy and difficult subject. And if the roast that I did, I meant what I said. And if the roast that I did struck a chord with people, I'm honored and humbled to have done that. Thank you.
We got a couple people commenting on one of our patron posts. They were saying that Rockford drivers are worse than Chicago drivers. You are high.
That's impossible.
You are high. It's literally impossible. I've driven to Madison multiple times straight through Rockford. I could close my eyes and drive through Rockford. In fact, I'm a Chicagoan. That's what I do.
Yeah, I have driven through Rockford so many times, and you don't even notice you're driving through Rockford. But there's no way to drive through Chicago and not notice you're driving through because it's a goddamn racetrack of assholes.
It's the worst. I was in Chicago driving around yesterday.
Is there ever a time you drive to Chicago and don't see an asshole?
Oh my God, it's the worst.
Every time.
Yesterday, I'm driving down the road and there's a guy half in the bike lane, half in the regular lane. And there's enough traffic where I can't get him across. And he keeps on turning his turn signal on and then changing his mind.
Oh my God.
And he keeps doing it over and over, but he won't get over. He won't stop just to see where he needs to be, right? Like the smart thing to do and the courteous thing to do would be to just look and be like, you know what? I don't know where the fuck I am. I'm going to figure out where the fuck I am. And then I'm going to fix where I am to where I want to be. Instead, he's just like, well, this isn't it. Well, this isn't it.
And driving by trial and error.
And then it's everybody behind him is just like, what the fuck are you doing? And then he pulls over to the side of the road and then he gets back on it. It's just, and that's just 1 second. It's, I would drive across town to get to the studio before. And my drive, 8-block drive, sometimes would be 45 minutes because Chicago's an absolute snarl. But then I sometimes wished I had a fucking, like a dash cam just so I could show people like, look at what has happened.
I know. I cannot tell you how many times I'm driving in the car and like I'll like point to Haley. I'll be like, I gotta just stay away from that guy. And you'll see like they're just weaving. They're driving crazy fucking fast. They don't know where the lane starts and stops. And it is every single time that you make a drive into Chicago. It's not like sometimes or most of the time. I'm telling you that without hyperbole, I cannot think of a single time I've driven into and out of the city that you don't encounter at least one severely dangerous asshole.
And when you live there, you encounter them one after the other.
I can't imagine what that's like.
It's awful. It's genuine. Driving in Chicago is a danger.
It's scary.
I used to drive my bike in the protected bike lane. That was where I would drive. I'd be like, no, I'd rather drive my bike because people are psycho. And the bicyclists are terrible too. Everyone's terrible. Chicago drivers are the worst in the nation. Hands down, the worst in the nation. I will challenge anybody to a bad drive off.
Yeah, you will lose.
You'll lose.
Haley is from New York. She went to New York. She will drive into New York City without even thinking about it.
It was easy.
Without even thinking about it.
It was so easy. I did it during rush hour.
She's lived here for 5 years. She will not drive into Chicago. She's unwilling to do it.
I had a guy driving in rush hour into New York. I'm driving into Manhattan from Long Island. I drove in. I had a guy wave me in.
What?
Waved me in.
I
didn't know the lane ended because I'm not from there. So I'm the asshole in the lane like, oh shit, this lane ends. I got to get over. And he's like, come on, buddy, no problem. Waved me in. I was like, where the fuck am I? What the fuck is happening?
People in the fucking school drop-off line. I'm not even making in the school drop-off line. They will not it has to zipper.
Yeah.
It has to zipper. They will cock block you in the school drop-off line here.
Yeah. Anyway, we have the worst drivers.
The
hands
worst.
Down. Worst drivers, hands down. There is no argument.
No,
this fight is over. I said good day. I said good day. All right. We got a message. This is from Brad. It says, growing a beard. He basically says, I recently started growing a beard. I knew you guys must have talked about your beards in the past, but I can't go back and listen. My question is, what do you recommend for maintaining a beard? I did a quick look on the internet. My BS detector went up. So my suggestion is buy good beard soap and good beard conditioner. You're going to want to probably get yourself some beard balm to control your beard. If your beard is really kinky, there's these comb straighteners that are hot that might help with your beard not being as kinky anymore and as puffy out on your face.
But if it's kinky, don't shame.
Yeah, and don't shame it. Whatever you do. And if you want to be kinky, you can go to adamandeve.com, type in Gloria, check out. But yeah, so those are the things I think that are pretty easy. Go to a barber, get a barber.
Yeah, get a good barber.
Find your correct barber, because there's going to be a barber somewhere that you're going to want to, you're going to find them. I happen to have a lady barber and she does a great job on my beard and I love it. I go back. It's hard for me to even book with her with a month out. It's like a month out. It's crazy, but she's great. So
I couldn't echo that more. Find an amazing barber. My wife actually makes a beard balm for because it's non-comedogenic. So she makes it out of shea oil, argan oil, and jojoba oil. But there are any number of good quality, but you got to put something in there. Once it reaches a certain length, you've got to condition your skin, and your beard with some kind of an oil or something.
Oil or balm,
right? One or the other.
Yeah, I use a balm, and it's almost waxy in some ways, and it holds your beard in place, kind of. But yeah, that's what you're going to want. You're going to want to look into all that stuff. And then, if you're going to trim it yourself, you just got to realize it's going to grow back. That's the key.
Right, yeah, you're going to fuck that up.
You're going to fuck it up once or twice, but you'll figure it out too. Because I used to do that for years. I would trim my own beard when it was short.
Yeah,
because that's easy enough. But
I've never gotten the hang of it.
Once it starts getting bigger, it's actually a lot harder for you to do on your own. I would suggest getting a barber. Good luck with your beard. Bearded people unite. We got a couple of people sending messages. This one was a comment on our blog. This is from Terry. And they said that the thing about Ilhan Omar and Lauren Boebert never happened. Evidently, it was bullshit that she told her followers, and then it got back to Ilhan Omar somehow. I don't know. I don't know what the story that we read made it seem as if it happened, like it physically happened. But we're not sure behind any of that stuff. But a couple of people sending messages saying it never actually happened.
like a flex to her.
It could have just been a flex to her followers.
Oh my God.
We got an image from Seth sending us a elf with a very special present and a gift for you. So we're going to post it on this week's show notes. Caliente. We got a message. This is last week. We read this last week, but it got cut from the show because of things borked. We got a message from Milo who let us know that it's not Kool-Aid in Jonestown. It's grape flavor aid. God damn it. We didn't know. Actually, we actually had a whole conversation about Kool-Aid on our show. We both agreed cherry was the best, of course.
Cherry is the best flavor of Kool-Aid.
And then we shifted and we decided that we would also accept grape Bubblicious because we talked about grape Bubblicious.
Grape Bubblicious is so good.
It's so good. But cherry's good too. Cherry was also very, very good. You missed that whole conversation. Actually, everybody did because it got borked by our recorder. We got a bunch of messages inviting Tom to either go see the space shuttle launch at Cape Canaveral, or telling him the best way to do it. So thank you all for sending the messages. That's super awesome. We did also mention too that we both really want to see like the collider.
Yeah,
like that would be cool to see too.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there has a season pass to the collider, let us know. We got a message from Tucker, and Tucker tells us that the QAnon stuff's super weird, but it might actually turn into maybe a religion down the road, especially because they're sort of dipping into other parts of, Americana, JFK.
I don't think that that's wrong, man. I don't think that that's wrong.
He mentions the 7-day Adventists. He's like, they're just as fucking nutty. So,
they were the Millerites.
Yeah. So, So that is going to wrap it up for this week. We want to thank, of course, the Puzzle and Thunderstorm guys for joining us again for Vulgarity for Charity on the last segment here on Cognitive Dissonance. But join us next week. We will be on their show, Scathing Atheist. And of course, you can check out their show every week, but we'll be on their show next week for their episode of Vulgarity for Charity that they're going to have on their show. And we want to thank them for bringing us along. And we want to thank you guys for your amazing support in this endeavor. The Modest Needs raised so much money, and it was such an amazing outpouring. So we just wanted to tell everybody that we were just so happy that this turned out the way it did and that you all made it happen.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It's an enormous amount of gift giving and help that you've provided to so many people.
So that is going to wrap it up for this week. We're going to leave you like we always do with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter, mommy issue, hypno-Babylon bullshit. Couched in scientician, double bubble, toil and trouble, pseudo quasi alternative, acupunctuating, pressurized, stereogram, pyramidal, free energy healing, watered downward spiral, brain deadpan sales pitch, late night info docutainment. Leo, Pisces, cancer cures, detox, reflex, foot massage, death in towers, tarot cards, psychic healing, crystal balls, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, churches, mosques and synagogues, temples, dragons, giant worms, Atlantis, dolphins, truthers, birthers, witches, wizards, vaccine nuts, shaman healers, evangelists, conspiracy, doublespeak, stigmata, nonsense. Expose your sides. Thrust your hands, bloody, evidential, conclusive. Doubt even this.
The opinions and information provided on this podcast are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of Glory Hole Studios, LLC. Cognitive Dissonance makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, damages, or butthurt arising from consumption. All information is provided on an as-is basis. No refunds. Produced in association with the local Dairy Council and viewers like you.